I was more scared than he was, and nobody knew it.
Dean Martin finally revealed the truth about John Wayne, and it wasn't good. On Christmas Day, 1995, Dean Martin lay dying in his Beverly Hills home. The man whose voice had entertained millions had one final confession for his daughter, Dina. What he revealed would challenge everything America believed about his friendship with John Wayne. For decades, the public saw Martin and Wayne as the perfect Hollywood brothers. The smooth singer and the rugged cowboy seemed inseparable, symbols of loyalty and friendship. But behind the laughter, poker games, and movie sets, Dean carried a painful secret, a betrayal so deep that he kept it hidden until the final hours of his life. What he revealed was about far more than John Wayne. It was about fame, loyalty, and the devastating moment when someone you once loved becomes someone you can no longer forgive.
Well, I sure don't have to have a truck hit me, boy.
But to understand the bitterness, you first have to understand the friendship. In 1958, Dean Martin and John Wayne met while filming Rio Bravo. Despite coming from completely different backgrounds, they connected immediately. Dean was the son of an Italian immigrant barber who had fought his way out of poverty. Wayne had built himself into the ultimate symbol of American masculinity. On paper, they seemed like opposites. Dean was relaxed and effortless. Wayne was disciplined and intense. Yet on the Arizona set, a genuine friendship was born. It started with late-night poker games. After filming ended, the two men would spend hours talking over cards and bourbon. Dean called him Duke, while Wayne treated Dean like family. Soon, their families became close as well. They shared dinners, vacations, and countless gatherings. Their children played together, and their wives formed friendships of their own. Hollywood loved the story. Here were two of the biggest stars in the world enjoying each other's company without rivalry or jealousy. Their weekly dinners at Chasen's became legendary, reinforcing the image of a friendship that seemed destined to last forever. From the outside, it looked unbreakable, but appearances can be deceiving. The friendship only grew stronger throughout the early 1960s. At Chasen's restaurant, a booth in the back was practically theirs. Dean usually arrived first, bourbon in hand and a cigarette lit. John Wayne would show up right on time, he was rarely late, and order a scotch. Then the conversations would begin. They talked for hours about Hollywood, politics, family, marriage, and the challenges of growing older in an industry obsessed with youth.
I was figuring on going back to dealing blackjack, back to my old job, dealing.
Dean, who rarely trusted people with his private thoughts, found himself opening up to John in ways he never did with most of the Rat Pack. For a man surrounded by fame, Dean was often deeply lonely. The carefree, hard-drinking image he projected to the world was partly a shield, keeping people at a safe distance. With John Wayne, he believed he had found someone he could trust. Their bond seemed even stronger when they reunited for another film in 1965. By then, they shared an easy rhythm on set. Their chemistry felt natural, and audiences loved seeing them together. Critics praised their performances, and Hollywood embraced them as the perfect example of masculine friendship. To millions of Americans, Dean Martin and John Wayne represented strength, confidence, and loyalty. They looked like proof that genuine friendship still existed in a world that was becoming increasingly complicated. But beneath the surface, subtle warning signs were beginning to appear. Friends who spent time around both men later recalled small moments that seemed insignificant at the time. John would occasionally correct Dean in front of others, then brush it off as a joke. He often needed the final word in conversations and naturally dominated every room he entered. Dean usually laughed it off. That was his style. But those closest to him noticed things others missed. People like Sammy Davis Jr. and Joey Bishop sometimes caught a brief flash of irritation before Dean's smile returned.
Geez, I had to go without meals when I was 16 and 17 years old. It's a terrible thing. I don't think that
They saw the tension that appeared whenever certain comments crossed a line. The friendship wasn't as effortless as it appeared. And according to those close to the family, one of the first serious cracks emerged through Dean's son, Dino. In 1964, Dean Paul Martin was 15 years old. Unlike many children raised around Hollywood fame, Dino was known as a respectful and grounded teenager. His greatest passion wasn't acting or singing, it was flying. He spent countless hours watching airplanes and dreaming of becoming a pilot. During a gathering at John Wayne's Newport Beach home, Dino found himself alone with Wayne, watching the sunset over the Pacific. Excited and eager to impress a man he admired, he spoke enthusiastically about his dream of aviation. Wayne listened carefully before offering a response that Dino would never forget. "Flying's fine, kid," he said, "but you know what real men do? They fight." John Wayne's words stayed with Dino long after that conversation ended. According to family accounts, Wayne told the teenager that real men fought battles instead of entertaining audiences. He suggested that Dino should avoid becoming like his father, a comment that left the young boy confused and hurt. Dino didn't tell Dean immediately. Instead, he confided in his mother, Jana. When she heard what had been said, she was furious. For years, she had watched subtle moments in which John seemed to look down on Dean's profession and personality. This time, however, the criticism had been directed at their son.
But I didn't know what I was going to do.
That evening, Jean told Dean everything. The reaction shocked her. Dean was not known for dramatic confrontations. Most frustrations rolled off his shoulders, or at least appeared to. But this was different. The idea that someone had questioned his character to his own child struck a nerve. "He called me soft?" Dean reportedly asked quietly. The anger wasn't explosive. It was controlled, which somehow made it more unsettling. Jean urged him to confront Wayne directly, and Dean agreed. He planned to bring it up the following week at a gathering hosted by Frank Sinatra in Palm Springs. For once, Dean actually rehearsed what he wanted to say. But when the night arrived, everything changed. As Dean entered the party, John Wayne spotted him immediately. With a wide smile, Wayne crossed the room, carrying a bouquet of white roses. "These are for Jean," he said warmly. Whether it was a misunderstanding or simply perfect timing, the gesture completely disrupted Dean's plans. In front of a room full of friends, Wayne looked thoughtful, generous, and sincere.
"Oh, I drink, but I'm not a boozer, not an alcoholic or anything like that."
The confrontation never happened. Dean accepted the flowers, made a joke, and let the moment pass. Yet something inside him shifted. Friends later noticed a change in his behavior. Dean seemed more guarded whenever Wayne's name came up. His humor remained intact, but there was a sharper edge beneath it. Over time, he began noticing things he had once ignored. Comments about what made a real man. The need Wayne seemed to have to dominate conversations. The way he positioned himself as an authority on nearly every subject. According to those close to Dean, he quietly kept track of these moments. Small incidents that might have seemed harmless individually began forming a larger picture.
where the rest of the country should feel terribly guilty about anything because they have had a better life here and their fathers and mothers than they would have had anyplace else.
Publicly, nothing changed. The two stars still posed for photographs, attended dinners, and maintained the image of a legendary friendship. Privately, however, the distance was growing. Dean's closest friends noticed that he increasingly avoided events where Wayne would be present. His entire career playing a character. Pretending to be carefree in front of an audience came naturally to him. Pretending a friendship still existed was simply another role. The problem was that neither man could completely walk away. For years, they remained trapped in a relationship that had become increasingly uncomfortable. Every public reunion generated headlines suggesting reconciliation, while privately, the resentment continued to grow. The 1970s only made things worse.
I love to sing, and I love women.
Dean was gradually withdrawing from Hollywood life. His television success was fading, and he spent less time socializing than he once had. Wayne was facing challenges of his own. Health problems and personal struggles had changed him, making him more protective of his image and more certain of his own views. Whenever they crossed paths, the interactions were polite but distant. One moment in particular stood out to those who watched closely. At an industry event in the early 1970s, Wayne publicly thanked his real friends in Hollywood during a speech. To most people, the remark meant nothing. But for those familiar with the history between the two men, the emphasis seemed deliberate. Cameras briefly caught Dean's reaction. For a split second, the smile vanished. Then, just as quickly, it returned. The audience never noticed. The tension between Dean Martin and John Wayne continued throughout the 1970s. One story that circulated among Hollywood insiders involved an uncomfortable encounter at the Beverly Hills Hotel. During a conversation that reportedly turned toward politics and the Vietnam War, old frustrations resurfaced. What began as a disagreement quickly became personal. According to witnesses, Dean challenged Wayne's habit of speaking as an authority on sacrifice and patriotism. Wayne responded by criticizing Dean's carefree public image. The exchange grew increasingly heated until others stepped in to calm the situation. Nothing physical happened, but those present sensed that years of resentment had finally surfaced in public. The friendship, at least privately, appeared beyond repair.
I'm not lazy. They want to think I'm lazy, but they know I work.
Another painful moment came in 1978 when Dean's son, Dino, joined the Air National Guard. Flying had always been his greatest passion, and he had worked hard to build an identity separate from his father's fame. When the news became public, Wayne reportedly praised Dino's decision. Yet some felt the comments carried an underlying criticism of Dean himself. To Dean, it seemed like another example of Wayne turning his son's accomplishments into a judgment about his parenting. Reading the remarks left him frustrated and exhausted. According to family members, Jean encouraged Dean to speak out and tell his side of the story. But Dean had little interest in public battles. By that point, he was simply tired. Tired of pretending everything was fine. Tired of maintaining a friendship that no longer felt real. Tired of swallowing years of disappointment and resentment. The public still believed the two men were close, but behind the scenes, they rarely spoke. When they crossed paths at events, the conversations were brief and polite. The friendship survived only as an image. As the decade came to a close, both men were changing. Dean was withdrawing from much of Hollywood life, while Wayne was facing serious health challenges. Then came the phone call that neither man could have expected. In 1979, word spread that John Wayne's cancer had returned and that his condition was rapidly worsening. Soon afterward, Dean received a request. Wayne wanted to see him. Dean's first reaction was simple: no. After everything that had happened, he saw little reason for one final meeting. The wounds were still there, and many had never healed. But friends such as Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. urged him to reconsider. Whatever their differences, they argued, this might be the last opportunity for closure. Dean resisted at first, yet the request stayed on his mind. For years, anger and disappointment had defined their relationship. Now, suddenly, time was running out. And whether he wanted to admit it or not, Dean knew he would eventually have to make a choice. Would he see John Wayne one final time? Or would their story end with decades of unanswered questions and unresolved bitterness? In May 1979, Dean Martin finally agreed to visit John Wayne at UCLA Medical Center. Wayne's cancer had returned, and everyone knew time was running out. The hospital room was filled with flowers and messages from famous admirers. But when Dean arrived, Wayne asked to speak with him alone. It was their first truly private conversation in years. The two men sat together, both older now, carrying decades of history between them. Wayne acknowledged that problems had existed in their relationship, describing them as disagreements and misunderstandings that naturally happen between friends. To Dean, those words felt painfully inadequate. Years of resentment, disappointment, and hurt were being reduced to simple misunderstandings. Then Wayne made his real request. When he died, he wanted Dean to speak at his funeral. More importantly, he wanted the world to remember their friendship the way Hollywood had always portrayed it. He wanted people to believe they had remained close until the very end. Dean immediately understood what was being asked of him. Whether intentional or not, it felt like one final performance, one last opportunity to preserve the public image that had surrounded them for decades. For a moment, Dean could have refused. He could have walked away and left the story unfinished. Instead, he agreed. Perhaps it was loyalty. Perhaps it was guilt. Perhaps it was simply exhaustion after years of carrying the burden of a friendship that no longer felt genuine. Whatever the reason, Dean promised he would do it. Wayne smiled, satisfied that his old friend would be there when the time came. After leaving the hospital, Dean reportedly struggled with the encounter. Friends later recalled that he seemed frustrated and emotionally drained by the conversation. A few weeks later, on June 11, 1979, John Wayne died. His funeral became one of Hollywood's biggest public farewells. Politicians, celebrities, and longtime friends gathered to honor a man who had become an American icon. As promised, Dean Martin took the stage. He delivered a moving tribute filled with stories about poker games, shared laughter, movie sets, and friendship. He spoke warmly about Wayne's strength, loyalty, and larger-than-life presence. The audience was deeply moved. Many considered it one of the finest public speeches Dean had ever given. Yet according to those closest to him, the experience was emotionally complicated. Years of unresolved feelings still lingered beneath the surface, hidden behind the polished words he delivered that day. As always, Dean remained the professional. He gave the public exactly what it expected to see, a loyal friend saying goodbye to another loyal friend. But when the ceremony ended and the cameras were gone, those closest to Dean sensed that the story was far more complicated than the audience would ever know. After John Wayne's funeral, Dean Martin reportedly confided in a close friend. "I just buried a stranger," he said. For years, Dean had publicly maintained the image of a great friendship, even when privately he felt very differently. The performance had become so convincing that almost nobody questioned it. Yet the truth Dean carried would remain buried for another 16 years. By Christmas Day, 1995, Dean Martin was 78 years old and nearing the end of his life. Surrounded by family, he spent his final hours reflecting on the people and events that had shaped him. Among the subjects he returned to was his longtime relationship with John Wayne. According to later accounts, Dean reflected on the loss of his son, Dean Paul Martin, who died in a plane crash in 1987 while serving as a pilot in the Air National Guard. The tragedy devastated the Martin family and left wounds that never fully healed. As he looked back on his life, Dean came to a realization. The conflict had never been entirely about John Wayne. In many ways, it was about his own need for approval. For years, he had measured himself against standards set by someone else. He had allowed another person's opinions to carry more weight than they deserved. That understanding brought a different kind of peace. Rather than focusing on anger, Dean focused on forgiveness. Not only forgiveness toward others, but also toward himself for choices he wished he had handled differently. It was a deeply personal reflection from a man who had spent most of his career hiding vulnerability behind humor, charm, and an effortless public image. And perhaps that is why this story continues to resonate. At its core, it is not simply about two Hollywood legends. It is about friendship, pride, regret, and the dangers of seeking validation from people who may never truly give it. Dean Martin spent decades entertaining audiences by making life look easy, but like everyone else, he carried disappointments, mistakes, and unanswered questions. Whether the stories surrounding his relationship with John Wayne are remembered as fact, legend, or a mixture of both, they remind us that even the biggest stars struggle with the same human emotions as everyone else. What do you think? Was Dean Martin justified in feeling betrayed, or do you believe the friendship deserved a different ending? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story from Hollywood's golden age. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.